Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead, welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. So Mindy from Temples of Jesus channel, she sent me a text and it had this article from Politico. Pope Francis, sensing he is close to death, moves to protect his legacy. So this is news to me, and there's a couple things to think about with this. There's a lot to think about. This Pope has really been on my radar. I mean, even before I started my channel, he's been kind of controversial. And you may think, like, what does it matter? Like, this is the Catholic Church. It's not our church. Well, for the same reason that I watch the Jews and things that they think are signs or things that would be significant to them, because I think that the Lord speaks to each nation and tribe and religion in their own language. Just like he speaks to the Jews, I think in a certain way, I think he speaks to the Catholics in another way. And there's this interesting, quote unquote prophecy called Prophecy of the Popes by Saint Malachy. And basically it's like a supposed prophecy of 112 popes. When you get to the last one, then it's Judgment Day, essentially. It's like, it seems like it's the second coming. So, and it just so happens that Pope Francis is the last one. So there are a lot of Catholics that believe in this prophecy. I guess you could say this is kind of like an Ezra's Eagle thing for Catholics. Not all of them believe in this or subscribe to this. I'm going to show you both sides of it. But it's interesting because the point is, if you have a group of Catholics, no matter what size, and, they're looking forward to the second coming and Judgment Day, then this could be preparing their minds for the second coming. It really could. That's why I watch stuff like this. This is why I look at things like the red heifers. Not that the red heifers really have anything to do with us specifically, I don't think, but it really means something to the Jews, and it helps prepare them for the coming of Messiah, the way that they view it. Okay, so we're gonna look at this in case you haven't seen this before, and a few other just like really interesting things having to do with another pope, and then we got this interesting thing that happened. I did a video about this before, but lightning destroyed key hand of St. Peter statue in Argentina on Pope Francis's birthday. Where he's from, by the way, not far from where he's from. We got this other follow-up picture. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then just other like things that have happened during his, what's it called, papacy, that have been very controversial and a lot of people have been upset about. So, okay, first, let's look at the news. Okay. The battle to succeed Pope Francis is likely to be highly politicized, particularly given the pontiff's recent clash with Catholic U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. Rome. Pope Francis is seriously worried about his health after being hospitalized with severe bronchitis and is rushing to tie up loose ends ahead of the battle to succeed him. The Pope was admitted to a special ward earlier this month in, I think that's Gemelli Hospital in Rome, with a respiratory infection, and he has since been forced to cancel a number of public appearances. It's the latest health crisis for the 88-year-old pontiff, who had part of a lung removed as a young man and has become increasingly fragile in recent years. The Holy See press office has trickled out continuous updates, and on Monday said the Pope's bronchitis had advanced to a quote-unquote polymicrobial infection with a complex clinical picture. According to two people familiar with the matter, Francis has been suffering from intense pain and has privately expressed certainty he won't make it this time. So, I mean, I don't know. These are anonymous sources, but if that's true, this could be a big shakeup. It makes me think about President Nelson. We don't know how much longer he has. Like, it seems like he's still going strong. But it's just kind of interesting that they're both him and Pope Francis, and the two of them met. I should have pulled that up, but they met back in 2019 around the time of the Rome, Italy temple dedication. And both of them seem like they're possibly on their way out. It's just, I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to notice. All right, continuing. On Sunday, doctors at doctors at Gemelli distressed the Pope by barring him from delivering his regular morning Angelus sermon, which he has rarely missed, even when hospitalized, said one of the people in a third person. He is now acting entirely on doctor's orders, quote unquote, said one of them. The Pope initially resisted going to the hospital, but was told in no uncertain terms that he was at risk of dying if he stayed in his room in the Vatican, the second person added. So, got a little bit more. On February 6th, before he was hospitalized, he extended the term of the Italian Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re as Dean of the College of Cardinals, a role that will oversee some preparations for a potential conclave, the secretive gathering that determines the selection of a new pope. The move, which controversially sidestepped a scheduled vote on the next dean by top cardinals, was intended to ensure that the process plays out according to Francis's wishes, the people said. Now, before we continue talking about Pope Francis and Catholic popes and this prophecy, I just want to point out our church does it differently, and this is not trying to bash on the Catholic Church, but I have a quote from President Spencer W. Kimball. At this time, he was president of the Council of the 12 Apostles. October 1972 General Conference. We thank thee, O God, for a prophet. I have put this quote on my newly created row on my quotes A through Z spreadsheet, what's currently row 511 for succession. And I know that there's more quotes out there. I'll just have to collect them over time. But for this video, I just want to remind you how things go in our church. And I don't know, we might be seeing this process soon. I don't know. Okay. He says, it is reassuring to know that President Lee was not elected through committees and conventions, with all their conflicts, criticisms, and by the vote of men, but was called of God and then sustained by the people. Later on, the pattern divine allows for no errors, no conflicts, no ambitions, no ulterior motives. The Lord has reserved for himself the calling of his leaders over his church. It is a study of great interest and importance. So if you're new to the church or you're not a member of the church and you're watching this video, in our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you have the 15 apostles. You have the quorum of the 12, and then you have the first presidency where you get the other 3. And it's the senior apostle, the one that's been an apostle the longest, that becomes the next president of the church. That's how it goes. So I don't know exactly how the selection goes to become an apostle. I think that they all just convene together. Maybe if you have more information, you can put it in the comments. But, you know, I know that they counsel together who should join the apostleship when there's an apostle that passes away. But at that point, there's nothing else that you can do to ensure that that apostle becomes the president of the church. It's just based on age and then how long that apostle survives. So, for example, when Elder Bednar was called to the apostleship, he was relatively young. There have been younger apostles in the past than Elder Bednar, but for that time, I guess it was like in the 90s, I think, or the early 2000s, he was really young. And it kind of, in my mind, it kind of ensured that he will someday become president of the church, unless he has like a untimely death or something like that. But anyway, so the point is, it's the Lord that's in control. And it's not something that you can just easily tamper with to make sure that, you know, a certain person becomes president of the church, right? Like when Elder Bednar becomes president of the church, all the ones before, well, of course, all the ones before him will pass away. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. Let's move on. Okay. So let's look at a group of Catholics. This most likely isn't even the majority of the Catholic Church. I don't know. It's probably just small groups, kind of like the people that are interested in Ezra's Eagle, but Catholics. But let's look at how they might be viewing this. So this is Wikipedia, Prophecy of the Popes. The Prophecy of the Popes is a series of 112 short cryptic phrases in Latin, which purport to predict the Catholic popes, along with a few anti-popes, beginning with Celestine II. It was first published in 1595 by Benedictine monk, I'm not used to these words and names, Benedictine monk Arnold Wian, who attributed the prophecy to Saint Malachy, a 12th century archbishop of Armagh. Okay, so you can see it right here, okay, the phrases and stuff, and then when you scroll, excuse me, when you scroll down, you have a table where it'll have, so it has like the phrase in Latin, and then it has it in English, and then the corresponding pope. Okay. And then like an explanation over here of like, oh, see, from a castle of the Tiber. And then the phrase is an inhabitant of Tifernum, right? From a castle of Tiber, if that's how it's pronounced, I'm sorry, Tiber, I don't know, an inhabitant of Tifernum. So it goes on, and you have all these popes, and you see the numbers over here on the left side. Okay. And you go all the way to the bottom. And this table has not yet added Pope Francis, but it has Pope Benedict, the 16th. And his phrase, the phrase that corresponded to him, was glory of the olive. And then the explanation says, proponents of the prophecies generally try and draw a connection between Benedict and the Oliventan order to explain this motto. Benedict's choice of papal name is after Saint Benedict of Nursia, founder of the Benedictine order, of which the Olivitans, whatever, are one branch. Other explanations make reference to him as being a pope dedicated to peace and reconciliations, of which the olive branch is the symbol. So, you know, the jury's out there. Obviously, this is not our doctrine, but if I was a Catholic, I may view this as like, oh, I think some people are maybe trying to shoehorn this, but, you know, this is their thing. Okay, so 112 is Peter the Roman. Okay. This article does point out that there's this, well, I'll just read it. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit. And then it says, in the Lignum Vitae, the line, and then it says that, forms a separate sentence in paragraph of its own. While often read as part of the Peter the Roman prophecy, other interpreters view it as a separate, incomplete sentence explicitly referring to additional popes between glory of the olive, which is Benedict, and Peter the Roman. Okay, so some people think, oh, this might be another pope or popes. But it seems like the main theory would have Pope Francis be the 112th Peter the Roman. Okay. So again, in this way, even though it's not our doctrine or anything like that, it could be preparing some Catholics for the end times, for the second coming. That being said, let's look at the other point of view. This is from uscatholic.org. What is the prophecy of Saint Malachy? No sooner did our new pontiff, so this is from September 17th, 2013. No sooner did our pontiff announce his name is Francis than some quote-unquote prophecy experts took to the airwaves claiming that the new pope is Peter the Roman. the fulfillment of the prophecy of Saint Malachy that this will be the final pope and the end of the world. I'm going to skip that part. The real Malachy was an Irish saint who lived from 1094 to 1148. His alleged prophecies, however, were not discovered until 1590. Now that's quite the gap, you guys. That's quite the gap. If I was Catholic, I might be skeptical of that, because who knows what's happened between 1148 and 1590. But anyway, the legend goes that Malachy experienced a vision in which he was given insight into popes past, present, and future, and that he recorded this vision as a series of cryptic verses. The prophecies were quite accurate up to 1590, conveniently the point at which they were found, but then became rather vague, lending credence to the theory that they are a 16th century forgery. That's probably the case. Malachy's predictions are contained in a list of 112 symbolic phrases, supposedly representing a list of 112 popes in succession. Most likely, though, the prophecy was created as an attempt to influence the papal election of 1590 in favor of Cardinal Girolamo Simoncelli, by having Malachy's prophecy identify him as the next pope. That's funny, because if that's all that this was just a bid to try and sway the election of 1590, and now it's been passed on through time and people are still looking at this, that's kind of funny how that may have played out. But Simoncelli was not elected, and Niccolò Sfondrati, who took the name Gregory the 14th, was. Prophecy supporters have already claimed that 111 on the list, the glory of the olive, is Benedict the 16th, because the Benedict... Okay, I'm going to skip that part. The prophecy goes on to say of the supposed final pope, quote, "In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit Peter the Roman, who will pasture his sheep in many tribulations, and when these things are finished, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed." That's Rome. "And the dreadful judge will judge his people." The end. It ends with the end. I like that. The end. Yeah, I'll skip that last part. So I'll put a link for this in the description box below. Again, it doesn't matter if it's a forgery. If it's getting this idea, if it's getting the idea of the second coming in a group of people's minds, then mission accomplished. And you'll have a group that are ready to receive Christ, even though, they may have some things off. Does it make sense? That's why I look at these things. That's how I view it. Okay, let's move on. So, I don't feel like I have enough at this point to put together a spreadsheet for Catholic specific signs. Maybe I do. Otherwise, I would maybe put this on, once Pope Francis dies or something, maybe I'd put that on here. Or maybe when he became Pope in 2013 or whatever. But I do have a few things, so let me just show you a few other things. This is my spreadsheet called Timeline Deaths. It started with President Nelson, his birthday in 2022, when he became the oldest living prophet or apostle of our dispensation. So that was a big milestone. And oddly enough, the day before his birthday, Queen Elizabeth II, who was the longest reigning British monarch, and also the second longest reigning sovereign worldwide, behind French Louis the 14th, passed away. She passed away the day before he hit this big milestone. And then you guys sent me just a bunch of similar deaths where he, a few weeks before that, Mikhail Gorbachev, the longest living leader of the Soviet Union, passed away. And then you have these other countries. I'm not going to name them all. Japan, Soviet Union, China, Hawaii, Greece. We have some American ones, the European Union. Well, part of this list is Pope Benedict. He was the longest living pope of all time. And interestingly, he died on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, 2022. He didn't live to see 2023. I still feel like there's something to that. Maybe just simply that 2023 was the year where we had the October 7th attack in Israel, which may lead to the final war. I don't know, but it feels like there's something to that. He died the day before New Year's Day on 2023. And then 17 days later, Lucille Randon of France, the longest living nun of all time, passed away. Longest living pope, longest living nun. That's very odd, along with all these other notable people. So this is Pope Francis' predecessor. Now we're on Pope Francis that some people believe correspond to this prophecy. Let's move on. This is my spreadsheet called Timeline Second Coming. I took note of this. It's kind of interesting that this also happened in December. Oh, wait, sorry. This is December of 2023. So this is about a year later after Pope Benedict died. But so there was this unusual event. Lightning destroys key, hand, and halo of St. Peter's statue in Argentina, which is where Pope Francis is from. And it was by like where he's from in Buenos Aires. And it was on Pope Francis's birthday. And it was also the day before the publication of the Vatican document Fiducia Supplicans, endorsing homosexual blessings, quote unquote. So that's what I showed you before. Here's a picture of it. Peter, the senior apostle, right? That's what President Nelson is. He's the senior apostle on the earth today who holds the priesthood keys, all of them, and he can exercise all those keys. Well, you have this statue from where Pope Francis is from, and it gets hit by lightning on his birthday. And it's the hand that's holding the keys, you know. And what's interesting is that, so this was, I said that this was in 2023, just a few years before that. It's just interesting that we have this picture of President Nelson in Rome, of all places, for the dedication of the Rome, Italy temple. He met with Pope Francis. In fact, maybe I should pull that up. Russell M. Nelson, Rome, Pope Francis. We've already looked at this picture a million times over, but it was at that same time that they met. This was the first time that a president of the church ever met in person with a pope. You know, it's just, it's weird. It's interesting. If you want to see everything to this story, I did this video right here. If you missed it, I would highly encourage you to watch it. It's so fascinating. So Pope Francis, who is right now in the hospital, he was associated with this prophecy and has like these weird things going on. I don't know. I'm just taking note. That's all. Let's move on. This is back in 2019. Okay, right here, Thursday, the 31st of October, 2019 is when this was published. And there was this kind of ceremony thing that happened at the Vatican where they had these people, these like indigenous people, I think from Brazil, I want to say. Yeah, Amazonian fertility figures that did this kind of like ceremony / presentation with these things that seem like idols. That's what a lot of people thought. I'm not sure. I haven't researched it. It's been a while since I've thought about this story, but the first time I heard about it actually was on this channel, Dr. Taylor Marshall. I guess this was like right about when I started my channel, because my channel started in August. No. I'm confusing 2019 with 20. So this was before I started my channel. I would check in with him from time to time to get a pulse on what was going on in the Catholic world. It's funny because his trailer video right here has a picture that comes from our Church of Christ as he's talking about Joe Rogan. That's kind of funny. But anyway, he's like a very like conservative Catholic, very dogmatic. And from what I can tell, I've seen a few other channels. People that are like him generally aren't too happy about Pope Francis, and it's because of things like this. In fact, some of those people that were unhappy with this took it and they threw it in the river, the Tiber. How do you pronounce that? Tiber? The Tiber River. And then afterwards, Pope Francis apologized to, the indigenous peoples that brought that there, or to anybody that would be offended. But they were upset that of all places, the Vatican would have something like this there. And then you had this. So CNN, Pope Francis breaks the tradition in annual ritual by washing the feet of women only. So these were prisoners, and this is like a tradition that they do in the Catholic Church. Says the foot washing ritual takes place on the Thursday before Easter and seeks to imitate Jesus Christ's washing of his disciples' feet the night before he died. Over the years, Francis has washed the feet of women and Muslims. However, Michael Walsh, a prominent church historian and author, and Friar, that's probably FR for Friar, Friar Anthony Ruff, a liturgical expert, both told CNN they believe this is the first time a pope has washed the feet of women exclusively during the ceremony. And here it is. In the early years of his pontificate, the Pope changed church rules to officially include women in the ceremony, a move that met resistance in the Vatican. His predecessor, Benedict the 16th, only washed the feet of men and later switched to washing only the feet of priests. So, and there's if I really dug into it, I'm sure I could find lots of other things that Pope Francis has done that's gone against the grain of conservative. I don't like that picture. Conservative. I don't like that one either. Let's look at this. Okay. That's gone against the grain of conservative traditional Catholics, but he's been unusual. He's been, from what I can tell, he's been an unusual pope. He's the first pope that's from South America. That's another thing. So it's just kind of weird, because President Nelson, he's been an unusual president of the church. Just in the sense that so many things have taken place during his presidency. And it's not all because of him. Elder Bednar has pointed out that whenever you see some kind of policy change or some change in the church, usually it's the result of just many years and even decades of preparing for that change. It goes through phases, and it's not just President Nelson became president of the church. It's okay, we're going to change this and this and this. It's already been in the works, but nevertheless, there's been a lot of changes during his presidency, and he's had this unusual focus on the second coming. He's one that has stood out from all others before him, I think. Another way that he stands out is the number of temples that he's announced. He now holds the record for the number of temples announced. And I'm sure for future president of the church will maybe pass him up, but as of right now, he really stands out. So it's just interesting things going on in our church. There's interesting things going on in the Catholic Church, I would say. So these are just interesting times. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.